welcome back to Essen 2017. I'm here with Reiner Knizia, and we're going to be talking about a lot of his games. So welcome back to our show.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here again.
I know, this is a big year for you. You had another Spiel des Jahres nominee with Dorado, and it was kind of your first foray into doing a deck builder, but you put your own twist. How did that come about that you decided to get into that?
Well, usually my ambition is not to follow trends, but to create my own ones, which is easily said, but not quite as easily done. With the deck building games, what fascinated me is the mechanism, but also when I experienced them for the first time, I actually found it quite hard to get into them because you build this relatively abstract mechanism, and I kept this memory for me for many years. And so once I said, okay, isn't there something I can do to make it more accessible? And so I said, if I build an abstract engine, if I build something and have many points, I will never reach the families. But if I give people a board, a clearly visible board and some cards, and I say, okay, if you play the card, you can move your person or your explorer or your two explorers, then people will understand why I have the cards. And then they will also understand if I can only move through the jungle and then there is a river, then I need to do something to cross the river. So then it becomes very natural that I then want to get some water cards, a boat or something to cross the river. So it becomes all very clear why I want to build the deck. And once I've left the jungle, then the question is, why do I still have the jungle cards in my deck? So I want to get rid of them. So by giving it this topological challenge, you first of all have a much clearer incentive and motivation why I am doing this strange, for the families, the strange deck building. And the second point is, of course, that you much more visualize where do I stand in respect to the others, can I catch up, what do I need to do, what cards are out there. Of course, the other ambition was to do this game with very, very few cards. So not with myriads of different cards, which is again a big hurdle to get into it. So it's only 20, can't even say, around 20 cards in the game, because I've been thinking of more secretly. And so it makes it easy to access it. But on the other hand, of course, the challenge is still, this is not a kids game. This is a game where the gamers can also try to compete and have their fun and have their strategy. There's enough strategy in this game, and there will be even more strategy in this game soon, so that you can really enjoy it on many different levels.
Yeah, well, I found it interesting because you kind of twisted the deck builder with a racing game, and that's not been done yet. So you were the first one to add like a race concept into it.
Well, that was the ambition, to kind of make it accessible, to give it, if I can't build it, I can't invent the deck building because somebody else stole this idea from me before I had it again. So all I could do is then defend my turf and at least add something very new to it. And I think it's a great achievement to come up with this deck building idea. So don't get me wrong, this is a big achievement. Not my achievement, a big achievement of coming up with Dominion, building all these things. Of course, yes.
Yes, and in addition, you have a whole bunch of other things. I know Amun-Re was released just a few years ago. It was reprinted, and now you have a card version of it.
Yes, Amon-Re is for me a very strong brand in the game which sells very well, and that means it reaches lots of people and they enjoy it. It's a gamer's game, and so I just felt the challenge and the excitement. Can I not do a slightly smaller version of a game which still gives the feel and the challenge for this theme, for this world, but in a smaller version, so that you simply play with cards, lay out the cards and try to build your kingdoms or the 3 kingdoms in the Egyptian history, to build the most pyramids again. Of course, this is always what you need to do. The pyramids give you the points, but of course there is again the Nile, so all the elements are in there, but it's somewhat slightly simpler. But it's not simplistic. You still need to fight very competitively to get the right cards to build your kingdom over the 3 big periods of Egypt.
Yeah, Amon-Re is one of my favorites, and I know in our back room here we already have the card game back there, and we're very excited about it.
So don't get me wrong, it is a card game, but it is tough. It is not as complex, but it is as tough as the board game.
Yeah, and another old one that is, I guess, in a reprint or in an anniversary, we saw that Oink is putting out this gorgeous version of Modern Art.
Yes, it is this year the 25th anniversary of Modern Art. And so quite a number of publishers actually have come up and said, can we not do a new edition of it? So we have a Brazilian edition, we have a new American edition actually with Cool Minis or Not. And we have a Korean edition, and we have also, as you just said, this marvelous Japanese edition, which is actually the German edition by a Japanese publisher, by Oink. And it's in a very, very small box, very elegant, very pure, and there's a puzzle involved in it as well, because if you take all the pieces out, it is almost impossible to get them back into the box. So the box is really packed. You cannot complain that you are buying air there. It's just completely air-free inside, nicely produced. And of course, the fascinating thing for Modern Art is every publisher does their own version with their own culture. So at the moment in our archive in the studio back in Munich now, where we moved to, we have, I would say, close to more than 30 different editions with all different pictures. So you could almost do a whole exhibition just of the different Modern Art games. And it's fascinating because it really expresses the culture of the different people who play that game.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my favorites. Now, another one of my favorites, which I know you have a new twist version. I've always liked Ingenious a lot. It's a really good, I guess, puzzly kind of game. And you have a new game, Axio, out.
Yes, that is a story which has unfolded over the last year that unfortunately I need to move away from the name because there are some legal arguments about the name. So I've decided that I build a new world, a new game, a new family, which we call Axio. I'm extremely excited about Axio because, again, I have tried to make this new game more approachable, still staying in the spirit of the family, but more approachable to the general public. So with this respect, we are now playing on a square grid with so-called domino tiles. We have 5 nice colors, but there are 2 elements which are particularly outstanding in my eyes for the novelty. And that is, there are 3D elements in there, because if you create single holes, of course we know that even without being a mathematician, if you have a domino tile and you want to put it in a single hole, it doesn't work. You need 2 spaces. But if you create single spaces, that means you then place there a pyramid, and that allows you to get colors all around the pyramid. So that means you can never complain, I didn't have the right tile. You don't need the right tile. You can just create a hole and you get the colors which you didn't have the tiles for. And of course, having the 3D part of it is nice. It gives it a very nice feel. And of course, it gives it a second dimension of how do I play these tiles. It's not just, I need to, of course, get all the 5 color scores because my weakest color scores for me. But I also now say I need to lay it so that hopefully I can make these pyramid places, but of course avoiding that my nice opponents get too many of them.
Yes, no, I mean, it sounds great, and I think it's going to be a nice addition to what you've already done for that. Now, you have some other games that are going to be reprinted soon. I mean, a lot of your games are classics, so they're getting reprinted. What are some of the bigger ones? I know Through the Desert, I hear, is being reprinted.
Yes, I'm particularly excited about Through the Desert because it is one of my classic games. So what better to do than put it into the classic series of former Fantasy Flight games, then Asmodee North America, and now Z-Man games. Yes, so it's all coming together there. So we will actually have, within a few weeks, coming out the new Through the Desert game. And it's not just a reprint in the classic series. And I'm proud because I don't know, the universe seems to tell me that all the classic games are done by me, because, I mean, Wind Rider or Fantasy Flight must be right. And if I look at their classic series, it starts with Euphrates and Tigris, it's Samurai, it's Ra, and it's now Through the Desert. So I think the classic period in the 1990s is mine, but we have also in Through the Desert now, when you turn over the board, you have a second board. And you wouldn't believe it, there's a river going through the desert.
Really?
Yes, and that gives you many exciting new, because you want water. Water is an important thing in the desert. And so you have great opportunities now for more challenges, more strategic play. And that's something, even though I've play tested it, I'm really looking forward to get the final result for me. Yes. And
it sounds like a really interesting twist to add a second board for an amazing game. It kind of has that feel of Go, where you're trying to get different areas and control them.
Yes, it is. I think in cooperation with Wind Rider Games, we have developed a nice addition to the game, and I hope people will enjoy it. Of course, when I talk about the 90s, I also know, coming back to our original with El Dorado, it's no point in, so to speak, marveling in the old ages. The challenge is there every year to be relevant, to be up to date. So, of course, you haven't asked me that, but it probably goes without saying. There will be, of course, some new additions for the El Dorado world coming out, so that people who finally found El Dorado then don't have to stop there. And I keep it with this mystery. The story goes on.
Well, I don't think it's a mystery. I think you just announced here that if you like Road to El Dorado, there's going to be expansions coming out for it, as you just heard. Breaking at the Dice Tower, you just heard this first.
Because it will only officially be announced in the Ravensburger press meeting tomorrow.
Yes, and on our channel, you heard that. Tomorrow is actually today, because this should be on tomorrow. What else do you have new? I mean, obviously you have all the classics. I mean, you talked about Tigers and Euphrates, Samurai, etc. What do you have new, or what are you working on for the future?
Yeah, I have, I believe, a very nice card game with some twists with Schmidt, which is called reprints. And it is a cruel game if you don't play it right. I have a nice little dice game with Amigo, which is called Schollenrollen. Schollenrollen, say that in a different language.
Schollenrollen.
Yeah, very good. And this is essentially about pushing your luck, rolling the dice and catching many fish, stealing them from the others and not losing them in the sea again, yes. And in this game, well, it's very up to date. It's a critical game because this game ends when there's no fish left in the sea. So we're on the best way to get there. So, and then of course there's now Khan of Khan coming out, which has already been announced. So we have, I think there's a nice wide variety. I'm continuing the Brain game series with Pegasus. So we have the Magic Potions version now out, completely new, how you can make these different spells come out exactly right. For each spell there's only one solution, how to put the ingredients together. And it starts easy, and then the final spells, they need a lot of brain power to make them work.
Well, we're really looking forward to everything that's coming out. I mean, you've got old games, you've got new games, you've got a whole slew of stuff coming out. You're probably, as I say, the most prolific designer in the industry.
Well, I'm trying to take over the world, and it is done step by step. But on a more serious or less serious note, I still believe from the whole of my heart that the games do make a really good contribution to our world, to the cultures, to people being together, playing together, understanding each other. And I know everybody says it, particularly nowadays, it's important. I think particularly nowadays it is important to talk and to be together and not to separate each other from it.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. I mean, it's like you want to be together, you want to be doing things, you don't want to. The internet it's not as social, and to get people to be social and play games is just great.
Yes, and the games still open the doors to the people, and it doesn't matter who you are, which religion you have, which color you are. You sit there, you're all equal, you're all engaging the same world, and you get to know the other people. And the games really bring people together. That's what we want to do today.
Well, thank you for being doing such a great job at bringing people together, and thank you for everything, and thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me, and I hope I see you again next year with maybe 1 or 2 new games.
Yes, so Dr. Reiner Knizia, and hope you guys enjoy our show, Essen 2017, from the Dice Tower. See you soon.